The latest news and talk, hot, fresh, and delivered when you want it. Power 98.7. Now we're talking.
Well, every Thursday around this time, we talk tech and talking tech this evening indeed. And, the business of technology, I guess. So the French company Canal Plus has received regulatory approval to take over Multichoice, which of course is a listed South African company. Now, the deal is said to be worth around 53 billion rand. The parties said that the South African Competition Tribunal has approved the proposed transaction subject to agreed conditions. As the parties previously disclosed, the agreed conditions include a robust package of guaranteed public interest commitments. Let's delve a little bit more into this one because it's been a long time coming. It's been quite a journey that this transaction has taken. Joined on the line by tech expert Mudewa Kavaza. Good evening and thank you so much for being with us again.
It's always good to talk to you, TG.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about this deal and the transaction, where we are with it now, with this regulatory approval. I mean, that was the major hurdle because it's taken quite a while to get here, hasn't it?
It has taken a while to get here. I think right now we are about a year and a half in, to the deal, from the time it was first announced last year. And, we're inching. I would say, though, that this has happened much faster than other deals that we've been looking at in the space, ergo Vodacom and Remgro's fiber merger, which has taken almost 4 years, to do. So it's great to see that at least we're at this stage. They've received Competition Tribunal approval. They sat through, I believe, 2 days worth of hearings. That was last week on Thursday and Friday, I believe. And then, there was a pretty prompt decision that came through from the tribunal, saying that, you guys can push through. Next step is them starting to implement what they call the post-transaction structure, which basically addresses how their broadcast license is going to be handled, once the deal actually goes through.
And what do we know about that in terms of how that is going to be impacted and the issues around the equity? I know that there's supposed to be South African shareholding, this, of course, BEE shareholding.
So this is, quite similar to what has been debated around, the Starlink issue. Of course, this is in a broadcast sense, and then Starlink is being dealt with in a telecom sense. But the two matters fall under the same act, which is the Electronic Communications Act. And according to that act, a broadcast license holder in South Africa cannot have more than 20% of its ownership being in foreign hands. That's what the act says. So what was proposed and how these guys have actually gone out, to make things happen, is that they have carved out a company, which they're calling License Co. In essence, it's Multichoice South Africa, and then they have, created a separate set of ownership around that particular entity. We have some big names that have come through in terms of the investors, the likes of former Telkom CEO Sipho Maseko, as well as Sonia de Bruyn, who is a well-known investor locally. And then at the same time, you have Putumanati, which is the empowerment vehicle of Multichoice, also owning an interest, inside there. MultiChoice Group ends up owning a 49% economic interest, but their voting is only limited to 20%, just so that they can fall within and comply with what the regulation says.
What do we expect this to do to the business? Because this is a business that has been not been in a good shape at all. It's been a struggling business, hemorrhaging subscribers at quite an alarming rate. What do you anticipate, or do we have a sense of what Canal Plus has in mind with this now that they're taking this stake in the business?
For people that have been following this transaction, though, know and remember that in the beginning, there was some opposition from MultiChoice itself to this transaction when the first offer came in from Canal Plus. The MultiChoice board actually rejected that initial advance, and they said, you guys are undervaluing our business. And then Canal Plus sweetened the offer to where we are now, which is 125 rand a share, which basically gets us to the 53 or so billion rand that you mentioned at the beginning. When we engaged with them, because we literally posed this question recently to MultiChoice themselves and the CEO, and they are looking at this as an opportunity to gain bigger scale, right? In Africa, there is no bigger company than MultiChoice when it comes to paid TV in Africa. They're the biggest in South Africa. They're the biggest in Africa. However, with roughly, let's call it 20 or so million subscribers on the continent, they're still a small fish compared to the global giants that they want to actually compete with. You need to think about the likes of Netflix. You need to think about the likes of Disney, the likes of Amazon. And to give you a sense of, where we sit, the combination of Canal Plus and MultiChoice would have them sitting at around 43 million subscribers, right? If they combine. But 43 million subscribers, they are competing for the same movies, the same series with Netflix,
right?
Which has 300 million subscribers. So you can see that in terms of ballpark and where they need to sit, they need to go far. Last week they showed, I think they mentioned the fact that the next biggest player would be Paramount, I believe. I stand to be corrected, which has over 70 million subscribers. So this thing that's happening, what we are watching in front of us, is MultiChoice, is Canal Plus trying to, add their numbers together to gain scale, so that when they're sitting and, trying to get deals for soccer rights, rugby rights, movie rights, the latest season of, Game of Thrones, Succession, whatever it is, that they've got the same firepower as some of these other global giants. And to do that, you honestly just need numbers.
Well, it's all this is all about scale.
Yes.
And one hopes that the consumer, the customer, will ultimately be the winner, because I think we've reached, and I do wonder from a tech kind of point of view, Mudiwa, whether, the pay TV in a way that we currently know it with the decoder and all of that. I mean, there was, so much value that that MultiChoice pumped into these decoders, especially once they introduced the PVR and so on. And but the subscription that goes with these decoders increasingly becoming, especially their premium offering, becoming quite unaffordable, and that's why they've been hemorrhaging subscribers at the rate that they have.
One of the most interesting things about this dynamic with the MultiChoice is the fact that, it really shows you just how bad the economy is. One, two, it also shows the fact that in many instances, the economies that the likes of Multichoice are playing in, they need, more economic growth. They need more economic growth in South Africa. They need more economic growth in the African countries that they operate in because, in terms of spending power, people overseas are actually paying more, to access the same amount of the same amount of content. But the economic reality of, being in South Africa, being on the African continent is that even with so much value, a lot of this stuff is still, out of reach. So we hope that the bigger scale will also translate to maybe even lower prices, but more importantly, that they'll be able to bundle even more content because right now, where they're trying to go, both, especially on the streaming side, is how do you get as much of this stuff as possible onto one platform. In their case, it's Showmax, so that a person pays one subscription and they have access to all the MultiChoice content, all the Paramount content, all the HBO content. HBO's streaming service is not available in Africa. Neither is NBC's streaming service. All of their content, they've made it available on Showmax. So going forward, those are the types of deals that MultiChoice will be hoping, to score and implement even more, just so that they can make the proposition as attractive as possible. What we don't want as subscribers is to have to go out. You have to subscribe for an internet line. Now you have to subscribe for Showmax. Then if there's something you want to watch on Netflix, you subscribe for that.
Yes.
Then Disney Plus. Then Amazon Prime, right? We just want one subscription that gives us as much as possible. So we hope that this deal and the scale that they're going to be trying to achieve translates into that for us as customers and also lower prices.
Do you think they'll keep this whole decoder model?
That's an interesting one. From a purely economic point of view, they shouldn't, because it's a very expensive endeavor for them. A lot of consumers actually don't know that MultiChoice actually subsidizes the cost of each decoder
of these boxes.
Yeah, each box that MultiChoice sells for DSTV, they're making a loss on it.
Wow.
Consumers are not paying full price for the cost of these boxes. The better economic model is if they switched over to streaming, because now you're being app-based as opposed to being set-top box-based. You don't have a network of installers, a network of satellite dish, all of this stuff.
You realize what that means, Mudiwa? You are going to wipe out an entire industry here. Wow.
I remember, it's funny. I remember a few years ago, and it shows you just how far we've come. Do people remember the company Ellie's? It's probably one of the biggest.
The ones that used to do the dishes.
Exactly. Now, that's a company that's had to fold, delist from the JSC.
Wow.
They're working hard to try and keep the brand alive in the market, but they've really fallen on hard times. And a big part of it is because less and less people were buying satellite dishes. The installing, the maintenance of dishes, the sale of dishes, the sale of set-top boxes, that had become such a big business for them that when consumers started moving in a different direction, to your point, we saw an entire Ellie's business and their whole network of installers and all of that stuff.
Because there's an entire ecosystem now around it.
Exactly, falling off. At some point, they actually tried to pivot to say, as a business and as a network of installers, we're going to try and switch over so that the installers become fiber installers instead, right? So that we can keep up with the times. And then, and I think a lot of those installers have become fiber installers. I stand to be corrected. I'm not sure what's happened on that front, but there was an attempt. But the amount of money that they were making, being part of that satellite dish ecosystem, the margins are so good compared to anything else. So you are right. It's, these are the things. When you talk about technology development, these are the things that happen along the way and the victims that have come along the way as well.
So from what you can see, the big opportunity, I mean, as you said, this is all about scale. I mean, in terms of the content that MultiChoice already has, it seems to me that, I guess there's so much that is out there. And going this route, I guess, will introduce us to new products that we ordinarily would not have seen. But, I mean, already MultiChoice are a big player, especially when it comes to live sport. In fact, they're second to none. Their offering in South Africa, especially in their premium package, is unmatched around the world. I wonder what's going to happen as far as that's concerned.
That one is definitely going to continue to be the mainstay, in the offering. One of the biggest unknowns is whether or not Canal Plus is going to continue operating the big brands as is. I would hope that they do, because the brands, MultiChoice has 4 big brands that are under their stable, and I hope they are allowed to continue. You've got the MultiChoice name itself, you've got the Showmax brand, you've got the DSTV brand, and you've got the SuperSport brand. And one hopes that they all continue. SuperSport, like you said, that is a second to none, type of sports broadcaster. It is competing with the best in the world, and it's definitely one of the big reasons why Canal Plus even decided that they wanted to, pursue this particular deal. The other thing that is part of the whole strategy is local content. When we see all these shows on Mzansi Magic, and all of that, the River, the Queen, Shaka Ilembe, all of that, that is one of the core things that, MultiChoice is driving in their strategy, because you can get an international show like The Office or Succession, and you can have it being streamed across the world on different platforms. But you can only get, those original South African shows, on the MultiChoice platform. And in the same way that you have those shows in South Africa, they're investing in the same type of shows, but in each one of the countries that they operate in, right? So that you are not just holding your people, you're holding your people on a local level first. The local shows that they love, they must make sure that it's MultiChoice content, and then you then have the international stuff on top. So for now, they have made sure that that is how they differentiate themselves. And it also adds to the sport as well, because SuperSport, as much as they're an international broadcaster, you see them, going out and broadcasting some of the local soccer leagues in some of the African countries.
Yes, yeah.
And those are all the things that make people want to subscribe, because they're like, oh no, our local team, right? English Premiership is one thing, we can all, get it on ESPN and all of these other places, but our local teams and all of that, that's another way in which MultiChoice through SuperSport has been ingratiating themselves, and it looks like they want to continue with that strategy as well.
Tell me, what is the model where Canal Plus operates? Because, they are, of course, dominant in the Francophone Africa. What is the kind of operation that they ride? Is it all subscription-based? And then if so, is it satellite television, akin to what DSTV is? Or is this what the Americans call cable, or are they fully now app-based?
There's a little bit of a hybrid,
Mm.
from my understanding, and many of the things that we see as being part of the multi-choice and DSTV offering, Canal Plus does so. They operate where multi-choice operates in 50 countries in Africa. They operate in, I believe, it's 26 or 27,
Mm.
across, across the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. Second thing, when it comes to their offering, I believe that there's a satellite component, but they actually have an app. I haven't seen this app myself,
Mm.
but I'm told
Mm.
that it's a great app that they have. That's the second piece. Third piece, in terms of their operating model, as much as they've been dominant in the francophone countries because they are a French company, you almost get a sense that they are, can I call it, I don't want to call it distancing, but they're almost trying to move away from just being regarded as a French company. Recently, they were unbundled out of a global media conglomerate called Vivendi, and they recently listed their business as Canal Plus. And instead of listing, in France, they ended up listing in London, right? And then you have a deal like this where they're going and trying to take over Multichoice, which helps them to get into Anglophone Africa and all of that. So you can almost see a concerted effort where they're really working to move beyond just being regarded as a French or a francophone, type of operator, and really trying to be seen as being more a global, type of player. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is, some similar deals to MultiChoice that they try to make
Mm.
in other regions just so that they can spread themselves more geographically as well.
Should be interesting to see which way this goes, and especially from a consumer. I mean, it seems as I don't know whether this was MultiChoice that was doing it, but I don't know whether you would have also come across some of these things which I kind of, when they were denied, when MultiChoice didn't say anything about it, I figured this must be them testing the market. The idea of breaking up their packages, and having a smaller maybe or an exclusively sports offering, or just smaller packages to try and retain some of their subscribers.
Hey, I won't lie. I've also come across it,
Mm.
and we have engaged management a number of times, about whether or not they would actually do that.
Mm.
You can see that they are experimenting with it here and there, and they've made some interesting strides. But that super sport beast is literally what keeps the lights on,
So
and it's
true.
what is
Mm. Mm.
and it's the draw card. And as a management team, they have stated it that we use sport as a way to get people into and to keep people in our ecosystem.
Mm. Mm.
This is what they have said. We've seen it on DSTV, and as of last year, they've also started implementing it on Showmax as well, on the streaming side, where on Showmax you can now have access to, a lot of sporting content
Mm. Mm.
on a mobile device, especially English Premiership. um, Showmax is the first, platform in the world where the English Premiership decided to come up with a purely mobile-only package,
Mm.
just for streaming. So you can see how sport is important, in the ecosystem. And if we're going to be 100% honest, for you to be able to make some of the local content investments, the shows that appear on the Mzansi Magics and all of those
Yes.
platforms, for you to have the freedom to make some of that content that might not necessarily make as much money, you need a cash cow that's able to, generate the revenues for the investors and the shareholders on one side, so that you can take care of some of the socio-economic aspects on the other side. If you're going to support local film film and TV and industry, you need an engine on one side that's keeping the ship afloat and profitable, so that you can do all of these other things on the side. So I think it will be a tough one, because imagine if they break out the sport from the packages, people will just go to the sport.
Exactly. And that would kill the other content.
Yeah.
Oh, well, fascinating. It'll be interesting to see which way it does go once it all actually is implemented. Mudiwa Gavaza, as always, thank you so much for your insight and the perspective you lent as well. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
There you go. So that's the future. And as far as Multichoice is concerned, we'll wait and see what the full implications are. But from a regulatory point of view, the Canal Plus, the French company, has now been given approval to take over Multichoice.